Hi, this is Simon from HomeKit News, and today we're looking at another Bluetooth 5 contact sensor, this time from Onvis. It comes with a little extra. Will this extra be enough to persuade you? Keep watching to find out. Okay, so today's product is the Onvis CT2, which is a standard contact sensor using Bluetooth 5. And you may be able to see here that this is a German version, although of course there is no difference between this and any other version aside from the packaging. The outside of the box has an instance of the HomeKit code at the bottom, and aside from being HomeKit compatible using Bluetooth 5 and requiring a CR2450 battery, this product has one little extra that you don't always get with other contact sensors, and that is spacers. Now, Onvis refer to these as gaskets, but I'm going to refer to them as spacers, and I'm going to show you those shortly. So let's have a quick look in the box, and the first thing we see is the manual that is also bundled with a few extra bits and pieces which we'll get to in a second. Beneath that you get the sensor, which is in two parts, the main sensor itself of course, along with a magnet. The other things you can see below the sensors are the aforementioned spacers, of which there are 4 pieces. Let's first have a look at the size of the main parts. So here are the basic dimensions for the sensor and the magnet, and below we've listed them in inches for our North American viewers. So let's get back to these spacers, and if you're not aware of what these do, let me demonstrate very quickly. Let me first remove the parts of the contact sensor, and as you can see the parts are all really well secured, which is a good thing. So we've got the sensor and the magnet that goes with it, which is as standard, and these can of course be used as they are if you wish. But we also have these spacers, and there's a lot of them, and these are designed for doors or windows where the door frame and the door may not exactly line up or match up, meaning the door might be a bit more inset than the frame itself, which without the spacers would mean the sensor and the magnet don't line up correctly. So these spacers help with that potential issue. So you basically have this first spacer, I guess you would call it, which would stick to the door or door frame depending on which way around the parts are placed. And then you have these 3 middle section spacers, although you'd probably only need one in most situations, and one of these would click into the first spacer, although I'm not going to fit it in now, as once they're clicked into place they're actually really difficult to get out again, so I'm not going to do that for this demonstration. You then finish things off with the magnet itself, although in actual fact you do need one of the spare pieces that came with the manual, which I'll show you in a second. But essentially once everything is all in place, even with the door and the door frame not lining up, the magnet with the spacers will help to balance those things out. Anyway, as you can probably see, the magnet itself can't connect to one of these spacers directly. So one of the extra spare pieces that came with the manual is a flat lid, I guess you would call it, that fits into one of the spacers. So the magnet and its adhesive strip can stick to the spacers. So essentially you have the first spacer that sticks to the door, a middle spacer, the lid that sits inside the last spacer, and then the magnet sticks to the spacer lid. So with all that, along with the main contact sensor, you have the complete package that helps you line up both parts of the sensor if necessary. Now, as far as I'm aware, when it comes to these spacers, which totals 4 in this case, plus the magnet itself, the only other company I'm aware of that also provides spacers for their sensor is Eve, who I also believe give you 4 spacers. The only other extras you get are a couple of extra double-sided stickers for the sensor and the magnet, which is standard these days, a SIM pin for resetting the device as required, a customer service card with some contact details, and of course finally the manual. Now strangely enough, even though the box is in German, with German text, the manual itself is all in English. It also comes with another instance of the HomeKit code, so all very standard and as you'd expect. The contact sensor also has the HomeKit code on the side, although only as digits and not with a QR code due to the size of the sensor space. This means there are 3 instances of the HomeKit code in total, so you're going to have to be pretty careless to lose all 3 of these. So that's about it in terms of the package and its contents. So let's have a look at how this all works in practice. In my particular case, I'm going to place it on a pair of sliding doors, so there are no issues, thankfully, with the doors not lining up in this case, which also means I don't need to use the spacers. As with any contact sensor, it's best to get them as close together as possible, and in the case of the CT2, there are 2 markers that show you where the 2 halves should line up. Now I'm just going to make sure that the doors can close and open without any issues, and it all seems fine in this case. I just next need to reset the device ready for pairing, and this involves inserting the SIM pin into the reset hole, with the device resetting once the internal LED flashes green 3 times. Oddly enough, the manual mentions blue and red LEDs flashing too, which seems to be incorrect, so that's something to be aware of. As this is a HomeKit only device, I'm going to add this directly to HomeKit via the Home app, and as standard you simply click on the plus sign, select Add Accessory, scan the HomeKit code, where HomeKit will then search and connect to the device before adding it. You then simply name the device, add it to a room and include it as a favourite if you so wish. You can also choose what type of sensor it will appear as, along with a choice of icons. With all that done, it's time to look at some of the possible things you can do with this contact sensor if this type of device is new to you. So just what can be achieved with a contact sensor? Well, you could have an entrance light turn on when someone opens the front door, but only have it do that between certain hours when light might be required. Or you could create an automation that when the shower door closes, a bathroom extractor fan is turned on, or if a patio door leading to the garden is opened at night, it turns on your outdoor path lights. With a HomeKit enabled air purifier, you could have it turn on when the window is open, or alternatively turn the AC off. You can even set it so you get notifications if a drawer or cupboard is opened, or if the signal is within reach of your home hub, you can even get notified when mail is delivered. Wrapping up with the pros and cons, and there's not a lot to say either way, but in terms of pros, Bluetooth 5 does have the edge over Bluetooth 4.2, which you find in the Eve contact sensor, for example. The inclusion of spaces is especially useful and something you seldomly see provided by other manufacturers. Being that it's Bluetooth, it will work even if your network suffers an outage. You get 12 months out of the battery, which is pretty decent for a Bluetooth device. And at under $20, it is quite affordable. It's not all good though, and the sensor is quite large in comparison to many other sensors of this type. I also don't find it massively easy to get into the battery compartment, and whilst I don't mind branding on devices, in this case it is too large for my tastes, although that doesn't impact the functionality of the device, of course. So that's it for now, but if you want to read the written review, click on the link in the description below, and thanks for dropping by, and we'll see you in the next one.